Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be number 3 in my list of top 10 favorite Shakespeare characters, and as you can see with the title, it is Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream. And before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to the hosts of ShakeTube 2020, Rainy Day Reads, Old Blues Chapter and Verse, Steve Donahue, and Totally Pretentious. I really love this event, so thank you for putting this on again for us. Now, Robin Goodfellow, also known as Puck, of course, is probably the closest thing I have to a nostalgic Shakespeare character. I first read Midsummer and also watched it, or at least watched the whole play, when I was 13 years old, and Puck was the character that really stuck with me. This is the character that I spent probably hours Googling online when I was finished Googling the play itself because I just wanted more information on him. I love this character. I love the different ways he's performed. Over the years, I've continually gone back to him. I don't think I would ever actually be able to play him, but this is a character that I would love to play if I could. He kind of acts as a bit of an audience surrogate for a lot of the play, and is probably the nearest thing the play has to a protagonist, although the play doesn't have a protagonist. It's an ensemble piece, I would say. But he's kind of the character that has links with all of the other stories. Very briefly with the Athens wedding plotline with Theseus and Hippolyta, but he is linked kind of at the very end with them, and then during the rest of the play he's the character that goes back and forth between all the different plots and actually is involved with all of them. He's the one who makes the initial mistake that starts causing problems with the four lovers. He's the one who turns Bottom's head into a donkey's head. He's the one who kind of acts as Oberon's gopher and does all the different tasks that kind of kick off all the major action. In addition to that, I think he's probably one of the most iconic Shakespearean characters. I mean, of course, there's characters like Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, the really, really high tier ones, but especially as far as the comedic characters go, Puck is very, very iconic. He's a very particular kind of fairy. One interesting thing about him is that prior to the play Midsummer Night's Dream being written, Puck wasn't actually a particular character. He was a type of fairy. Incidentally, I found it out from this book. I love this book so much. It's the Oxford School Shakespeare edition. There, now you can kind of see it. So it was really Shakespeare that kind of condensed this type of fairy down to a single fairy. And it's especially notable because in the first scene with Puck, Shakespeare puts a lot of effort right away into making sure we know who this character is and what he's like. Because literally, in this book, it's the first 2 pages. I think that's probably pretty accurate for most versions. We hear a lot about the fairy world in the first 2 pages that the fairies are actually on stage, which is Act 2, Scene 1. And a huge chunk of that time is spent just describing what Puck is like, and both through the fairy he's talking to and then through his own speech. So it's very much something Shakespeare wanted the audience to understand right away, especially when they were first going into the world of the fairies. In both the folklore that Shakespeare based his character on, and of course in the play itself, Puck is characterized as being highly mischievous, but also mostly good at heart. He does sometimes mess with people just for the sake of it. For instance, the fairy and him talk about how he will lead people away from the paths by turning into a flash of light, or sometimes he'll turn into a stool and then like yank out from underneath the person when they try and sit down on him. Like different things like that. And then of course we see it in a very direct way when he turns Bottom's head into a donkey's head. So he does play lots of little tricks and things like that. However, Puck was also known for being quite helpful, and that's also mentioned in this play. Her speech has a lot of different things that he does to mess with people, but she follows all of this up with "those that hobgoblin call you" and "sweet Puck, you do their work and they shall have good luck." So basically, if you're nice to him, he'll probably help you out, but if you treat him badly, then he's going to mess with you. Most of the stuff that's listed here is fairly harmless. For instance, he'll fright the maidens of the villagery, so scare people, but that doesn't actually hurt them, it just scares them. Puck messes with people a lot. That's how he entertains himself. He's the court jester for the Fairy King. Like, it's kind of what he does. But overall, he is good at heart, and I just really love him. Stanley Tucci, incidentally, is not my favorite Puck. I think he does a good job, but he's not my favorite. My favorite was actually one that I saw in the production that my sister Megan was in. She played Helena, and the young lady who was playing Puck was so good. I really loved her version of the character because that was probably the first time that I watched Puck and went, yeah, you are definitely Fae. Like, you don't, like, you behave in this very hobgoblin-y way, like, just in her facial expressions and the way she was moving, you could tell that this character was not meant to be human. Because Puck is described as a hobgoblin and a goblin, it makes sense that Puck wouldn't behave in a normal way, even by the standards of the other fairies. He's not like a tall, willowy elf, like a kind of Lord of the Rings style, which is usually closer to how a lot of Titania's fairies are depicted. Of course, they're different, but they're kind of closer to that. Puck is quite different from them. He's the court jester. He's the one person who can really get away with a lot of stuff with the King of the Fairies that a lot of people can't. And also, he's the one that Oberon turns to initially, and we know Oberon has a lot of servants. So the fact that he goes to Puck, it's kind of like he goes to Puck when he wants something done that isn't necessarily what people would expect of the King of the Fairies. Like, oh, I know, I wanna make my wife fall in love with a monster. Well, I'm not gonna get one of my regular servants to do that. Puck, get over here. Okay. Also, another thing that I find very interesting about Puck is the dynamic that he has with Oberon. It's obvious that Oberon is, I would say, decently close with Puck, or at least as close as a fairy king is going to be with anyone. He kind of seems to view Puck almost as like a puppy, because he clearly enjoys a lot of the pranks that Puck pulls on different people. When Puck sees what happens with Bottom and Titania, Puck's first reaction is to go and tell Oberon exactly what happens, and Oberon thinks it's hysterical. So clearly these two, yeah, it's very obvious that Oberon sees Puck as his primary source of entertainment, I would say. I do think he kind of sees Puck as like a very, very intelligent puppy who likes to make weird things happen that entertain him. But also I think he sees him as a trustworthy companion, because this isn't exactly something he would necessarily want everyone knowing about what happens with Titania. Maybe he doesn't care, but he kind of seems like the type of person who would be like, okay, I need this to not get out immediately. Puck, you go take care of it. So that shows that Puck is deemed as very trustworthy and is quite high up in the fairy court in terms of the level of trust that he has with the king. And again, 90% of Oberon's scenes, I would say, are with Puck, and vice versa. Puck has more scenes without Oberon, I would say, but a lot of their interactions are with each other. And they kind of act as the audience surrogates, especially Puck. Puck is the one who kind of looks at the humans and goes, what on earth is with these people? Like, they're so dumb. What are they doing? Oh my goodness. And he thinks it's hysterical, which I think kind of helps with the whole aligning his views with the audience. Also, I kind of love that Oberon can't just say, hey, there's this flower, go get it. He has to go into this gloriously poetic, detailed description of where this flower came from, and the fact that it's called love and idleness, and why, and how it got its power, which I'm not complaining. I like having answers regarding that fact, or else I'd be sitting here going, why? Like how in Hamlet, when it's like, why did Hamlet get kidnapped by pirates? Why do they not tell us anything about this? Okay, we're just gonna leave it, whatever. But anyway, so Oberon gives this massive speech, and it basically all boils down to, hey, there's this magic flower that makes people fall in love with the first person they see after they wake up. Go get it for me. Which brings me to another point. Puck seems to be a lot faster than a lot of the other fairies. They're all fast, but Puck seems to like moving very, very quickly. For instance, when Oberon tells him to go get this flower, Puck's response is, I'll put a girdle round about the earth in 40 minutes. Which is him going, yes, I'll go do it, but it also kind of almost sounds like him going, yes, I'll make you proud. Look at how fast I can go. Bye! I'll be right back. I also find it interesting that, like Oberon, Puck seems to have a lot of sympathy for the two women in the love quartet, square, thingamabob, whatever you want to call it. The set of the four lovers. Because his first reaction upon seeing Hermia is, oh, you poor woman, basically, you poor girl, here, let me help you. He grossly misreads the situation, but his intentions are good. And it actually parallels quite well with Oberon's first reaction to Helena, because he also feels quite a bit of pity for Helena. There's a very interesting difference between what Puck says when he puts the love potion onto Lysander's eyes versus what Oberon says when he puts the potion onto Demetrius's eyes. When Puck is putting the love potion onto Lysander's eyes, he says, churl, upon thy eyes I throw all the power this charm doth owe. When thou wakest, let love forbid sleep his seat on thy eyelid. So wake when I am gone, for I must now to Oberon. So he doesn't say anything specifically about who Lysander is supposed to love. Just, you're gonna love someone. Here, have a love potion. Bye. So his intentions are that woman, but he doesn't actually say who he is referring to. So the love potion could be aimed at anyone, which is in theory how the potion works normally. And before I go any further, I should mention what I'm about to say actually comes from this book, the Oxford Shakespeare Midsummer Night's Dream Oxford World Classics. So, yeah. By contrast, when Oberon puts the love potion onto Demetrius's eyes, he says, "Flower of this purple dye, hit with Cupid's archery, sink in apple of his eye, when his love he doth espy, let her shine as gloriously as the Venus of the sky. When thou wakest, if she be by, beg of her for remedy." Now there's a very notable difference in language there. And that is, he says, when his love he doth espy. That's a lot more precise than what Puck said. Now, part of that, I think, is that Oberon is just a much more calculating, precise person than Puck, because Puck does seem a little bit like a child on a sugar high at times. He tends to have a lot of energy and just kind of goes, which I love and makes him very entertaining to watch. But I think in reference to the way the spell is cast, Oberon is very, very precise of when his love, when the woman that he loves in his heart comes here, let the potion link into her specifically. So I think that kind of, for me, makes it a lot less icky because it kind of implies that Demetrius at his heart already loved Helena. It was just kind of bringing that love back to the surface. In the case of Lysander and Hermia, they actually reversed the spell, and that's what caused him to love her again. So there's no iffy stuff there. And in the case of Helena and Demetrius, that's how I choose to look at it. Anyway, that was a bit of a cul-de-sac, but I just wanted to bring that up. Now, another thing that I find very interesting is that Shakespeare gives the epilogue of this play to Puck. It's completely understandable, because he kind of has had that external, not bird's eye view, but kind of the outsider's view, the audience surrogate view for the entire play. So it makes sense that he would be the one to have that, more so than Oberon even, because Oberon is more emotionally invested in several of the plot lines. But Puck has kind of been saying what the audience is thinking for a lot of the play. So it makes sense that he'd be the one to kind of break the fourth wall, basically. He looks at the audience and directly says, like, hey, basically traditional Elizabethan epilogue, at least in terms of the content. He basically just says, hey, if you didn't like this play, just pretend it was a dream, and then it doesn't matter anymore. But I also really like the epilogue of this play because it feels like it's a very cathartic ending. Because he is the audience surrogate, it kind of feels like he's finally acknowledging, hey, I'm basically one of you, except that I actually can affect the plot. And now I'm actually talking to you. This is what I think. I hope you liked it. If not, then I apologize. That's basically what's happening in that scene. And another little tidbit that I got from this book that I find rather interesting in that final scene, Puck's first speech in that final scene of the play ends with, "I am sent with room before to sweep the dust behind the door." Now, to me, that reads, in a literary sense, as him basically saying, hey, I'm here to clean up any final issues that we might have with this play. But in a very literal sense, the folkloric character of Robin Goodfellow was often presented with a broom, which I think works well with his symbolism of often being seen as friendly towards housewives. Like, they say that pretty explicitly in his earlier speech, and that is something that was in his folklore, I believe, as well. So, yeah, that's a direct reference to what Shakespeare's audience would have thought of when they thought of Robin Goodfellow, is this hobgoblin character with a broom. That's what he's presenting in this part. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here for now, I think. I might do a follow-up video where I contrast Puck with Ariel from The Tempest. I have mentioned that in a previous video. If you want me to do that, comment it down below. I will see what happens with that. Anyway, thank you for watching, you guys. Who do you think is going to be the number 2 character on this list? How is your September going? If you're participating in ShakeTube, how's that going? What kind of stuff are you doing for it? Have a wonderful day, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.